Episode 1 of The Westies begins with a Gambino underboss called Vinny tied up in a warehouse, captured by Davey O'Brien. Now, with a gun to the man's head, Davey forces him to hand over $5,000. However, Eamon Sweeney shows with his men and tries to defuse the situation. You see, despite years of resentment between the two groups, the Westies have actually come to a fragile agreement to work with the Italians, and this hostage situation could plunge them right back into war again. Now, Eamon knows this better than most and kills Davey to make an example of him and keep the peace. Now, Eamon's right hand man, Jimmy, is unsure whether this was the smartest play, but Eamon admits he had to send a message that this sort of thing doesn't fly anymore. Now, Jimmy Rourke has his own crew, which Davey was a part of, and he doesn't take kindly to this. Now, Eamon is quick to try and dispel the drama though, revealing their long game prize here is the Javits Center. Now, this is the biggest project in New York, and it's currently worth $500,000, and given it's on Westie turf, Eamon has secured them a share of this, which could equate out to tens of millions. That's more than all of their rackets combined, so there's definitely a financial incentive here. The Italians also outnumber their gang too, so if they did end up in an all-out war, it's pretty safe to say that the Westies would be massacred. Jimmy isn't happy though, and a lot of the boys feel the same way about the Davey situation, but for now Eamon is the one calling the shots and everyone stays in line. One who doesn't is Bridget. Now, Bridget is Jimmy's girlfriend and she snidely throws barbs at Eamon about Davey, sowing even deeper seeds of doubt from the gang. Now, Eamon isn't exactly happy about this either, and that anger he feels about killing Davey is thrown right over at the Italians, and in particular a powerful underboss by the name of John Gotti. Now, Eamon makes sure things are okay between the two groups, given he only cares about the arrangement he made with Big Paul Castellano, involving the Javits Center. Because of that, Eamon is forced to comply with the Italians' wishes, while simultaneously keeping everyone in his own gang on a tight leash. That's not made any easier though, when Eamon is tasked with silencing an Irish Union leader, Deke Kinsella, all in the name of good faith of course. Now, Bridget and Jimmy head to Bellevue Hospital to pick up Mickey Flanagan, a charismatic man who clearly has the respect of Rourke's crew. He's also unaware of Davey's death at this point. Now, while this is happening, an officer called Keenan is taken downtown to the federal building, where Agent Polk gets him up to scratch on what they're working on. She explains that the Gambino family are the most powerful crime organisation in New York. They're currently coordinating federal, state and local resources to build a RICO case against the family. And since Keenan knows the neighbourhood well where this Javits Center deal was occurring, she wants him to be part of this. When he refuses, Polk brings up his history of betting and past corruption. Keenan's connection to this neighbourhood runs deep, especially as his estranged son Danny is embroiled deeply in the gang, with pictures of him meeting Eamon's lieutenant Eddie Breen. Keenan is very much corrupt though, and actually working with Eamon on the side. Keenan brings up how he was recruited by the feds and turned them down, but Eamon thinks this could be a good opportunity to scout for answers. He tells Keenan to reconsider and work as a double agent for him. Now, in exchange, he wants Danny out of the business, but Keenan isn't exactly in a position to bargain, and Eamon flat out refuses.
Yes, that concludes negotiations.
Eamon next has Jimmy bring Mickey to him, and he tasks the pair with silencing Deke. Naturally, a brawl does break out between the two sides when Deke refuses to keep quiet, but Jimmy and Mickey do come out on top. They even cut out his tongue to silence the guy. Oh, and then they bring the tongue to Eamon, of course. Meanwhile, Bridget is approached by an old buddy called Brendan Cahill after a speech at her fundraiser. She has a history with the IRA, given she used to be in their ranks before leaving for New York. She's even changed her name too, as she used to be known as Sarah. And Brendan needs the package kept secure, and that involves Bridget allowing them to move that around the docks. When she heads down to the docks with him, we find out that inside this wooden crate is a rocket launcher. That night, things take a nervy turn at a bar, as Jimmy tries in vain to silence Mickey from mouthing off against the Italians, and in particular, Vinny. Now, when Vinny mentions Davey, Jimmy diffuses the situation outside, but Mickey mentions Jimmy's thoughts being stolen, hinting that the treatment he received at Bellevue perhaps wasn't quite as successful as it first seemed. Now, Mickey goes off script here, obviously unaware of the current arrangement between the two gangs, and forces Vinny to drive at gunpoint. They wind up at the exact same warehouse we opened the season with, and Vinny admits that Eamon killed Davey. When Eamon finds out about this, he once again rallies the troops and tasks Jimmy with killing Mickey. It's a horrible situation and Jimmy is caught between a rock and a hard place here as he holds the gun. However, he suddenly changes his mind and shoots Vinny dead instead. Episode 2 of the Westies begins with Jimmy confident they can just sweep their Vinny problem under the rug by making him disappear. With tensions and infighting threatening to break out, Eamon follows Jimmy's plan and agrees that they'll all feign ignorance about Vinny's whereabouts. Along with taking the bullet out of Vinny's skull, Breen, one of Eamon's closest confidants, talks Jimmy and Mickey through handling the body, including chopping off the limbs. The gore brings back bad memories for Mickey, whom we learn is actually a Vietnam vet. In the midst of cutting off body parts though, Jimmy comes up with an idea. With Vinny's severed hand, he suggests they orchestrate a jewelry store break-in and then leave Vinny's fingerprints all over the joint. Once that's done and they've left, Eamon can call Keenan to get in on the case and make it seem like he's on the run. Jimmy believes that would not only alleviate the heat off their gang, but also distract the Italians long enough to let them finish the job. Jimmy will then burn his hand once they've left fingerprints around the city and out of the state. Eamon eventually concedes with the promise that if they mess this up, then their gang will be happy to hand over Mickey and Jimmy to the Gambinos and take their chances with the Italian wrath. Elsewhere, Keenan shows up for his first day working with Polk. She tasks him with digging into Eamon's connections at the centre, including details on financials, bid rigging and more. Keenan is not sure he could do this, but his record certainly speaks for itself. Now, Polk has also done her homework, bringing up how Keenan has done 2 tours of Vietnam and is actually a Force Recon Marine. With the NYPD, he even has a Medal of Valor too. However, somewhere along the way he lost his mojo, falling off the wagon and ending up on this corrupt path of misery. Anyway, Keenan heads to the local bar where he's not exactly subtle in grilling the barman, Ray. A lot of this stems from his alcohol problems, and it doesn't take long before Keenan is called over to see Eamon. Well, Eamon is given the lowdown on Jimmy's successful heist first. Eamon has a guy called Liam
Hennessy,
who runs Corktown Pub over in Boston. He could be just a ticket to help pull this off, although Eamon is still not convinced this will work. As for the Italians, Vinny's wife Lena is quick to confront the mob regarding Vinny's disappearance. She can't shake the feeling that he's dead, given the fact he was supposed to show up for a christening he was excited for, and all she knows is he was with an Irish woman called Erin. John Gotti agrees to look into this personally. That's a real problem though, because Erin actually saw Mickey lead Vinny off at gunpoint. Mickey has a soft spot for Erin too, which explains his emotional outburst at the end of episode 1. He hands over a rather expensive bit of jewellery to her and offers sympathetic ear if she ever wants to talk. Speaking of falling off, Bridget is visited by Brandon again, who tries his luck to win her over and continue working for the IRA in secret. That night, Bridget comes clean to Jimmy about the shipment and how she did this for the cause. Jimmy is pretty uneasy about the arrangement, to be honest, especially as Brandon is the sort of man where if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Still, he reluctantly agrees to keep this between them. When Keenan finally does rock up at Eamon's, he's skeptical about the boss's plan and questions whether this will work or not, calling in the jewellery heist. It doesn't take long for word to reach John Gotti and alarm bells immediately ring. Yes, Vinny is a bit of a loose cannon no doubt, but he hasn't exactly robbed jewellery since he was 20, so this feels like it's a setup, which we obviously know that it is. None of this is helped by Jimmy Rock's gang, who don't take the plan seriously at all. They drink beers on the way up to Boston, take regular breaks, and they even goof off with a severed hand too. They miraculously do make it to the bar and smash the place up, while leaving fingerprints everywhere. On the way back though, they're stopped by the police. That's a real problem given how much they've all been drinking. When the cop finds a severed hand on ice, Pat kills the cop and stages the entire scene, including Vinny's fingerprints on the gun and leaving his driving license to make it seem like he killed the cop. And meanwhile, John shows up to see Eamon at his office, questioning him about Vinny. Eamon feigns ignorance, but he soon learns about the police situation when the gang returns. He orders them all to burn the hand to dust and also burn the car they drive up in too to avoid any repercussions. Eamon knows the truth will come out eventually regardless of how hard they work here, and he warns Jimmy as much after. As for John, he finds Erin and questions the girl over Vinny. When he finds her wearing that expensive bracelet, she's forced to reveal who gave it to her at gunpoint. Well, after burning the hand, Mickey is then grabbed by John's goons and kidnapped, with Jimmy left lying unconscious on the floor. Meanwhile, Bridget learns that Brandon's plans with these explosives and rocket launchers are a little closer to home than she first thought. The IRA have set their sights on New York. You know what they say about the best laid plans? Well, sometimes they absolutely suck. And that is precisely what's happened with Jimmy and Mickey here, who have unfortunately proven themselves to be completely out of their depth, and also proven Eamon completely right. On the one hand, you could argue it's a decent enough plan for a low-life goon, but for an underboss like Vinny, who's well respected among the Italians, the jewelry store heist is amateurish, and it seems all the Italians have seen through this facade immediately. Now, Mickey is a loose cannon that's essentially messed everything up for them, and everything we're seeing right now is just one big car crash taking place in slow motion, and it's hard to tear your eyes away from that. Now, Keenan's plan to work as a double agent is an interesting inclusion here though, and I can't help but feel we'll see a lot more of him before this is all said and done. This won't be quite such a simple investigation, and we're already seeing the pangs of rebellion start to bleed through here. Could Keenan's son play a crucial role in all of this? It's also worth noting that J.K. Simmons absolutely chews up the scenery here in every scene that he's in. The rest of the cast do a pretty good job, but it's J.K. Simmons who really carries everyone. All things considered though, the Westies has been a pretty solid watch. Sure, there's a few cliches and a story itself isn't quite developing as quickly as it can, with characters like Jimmy and Mickey difficult to warm to given how stupid they are at their core. Still, even with that in mind, there's been plenty here to whet the appetite, and that ending certainly leaves the door wide open for next week's episode. Will we see the Italians' wrath in retaliation to what's happened? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.